I'm sad to share that my channel is currently not eligible for monetization. But don't worry, I will continue uploading videos for you all, although they may be a bit shorter going forward. I also share some extra content and updates on my website. If you're interested, feel free to check the link in the description. Thank you so much for your continued support. Chapter 1. 1445 Mysterious Mountain Ranges. The further they advanced in the canyon, the deeper they went into the abyss. The entire space up ahead was completely pitch black, without even the slightest hint of light, as if they'd made their way down into an infernal hell. However, all of the Qirong beings' eyes were shimmering with piercing red light, allowing them to see in the darkness. So all of them remained quite calm. Not long after that, a strange cry erupted from the darkness up ahead, and a vast flock of bird-sized bats with purplish-red eyes pounced toward them while letting loose sharp screeches. Zhu Yinzi was flying at the forefront of the group, and he merely looked on with expressionlessly at the menacing oncoming bats before abruptly flapping his wings. Countless feathers shot forth amid a flash of red light before transforming into countless streaks of fire that passed through the flock of bats in the blink of an eye. A series of loud explosions erupted, and all of the bats plummeted from the sky as fireballs, with not a single one surviving that attack. Thus the Qirong beings continued onward without even being slowed down at all, and quickly disappeared into the darkness. As long as they kept flying along this canyon, they'd be able to reach the second level of the Earth Abyss after a day and a night. On a vast stretch of red land, a massive black shadow flashed through the air, seemingly fleeing from something in a panicked manner. Not long after the black shadow flew past, spiritual light flashed in the distant sky, and a dozen or so streaks of spiritual of different colors emerged, flying toward the same direction. All of these beings had different types of wings growing from their backs, but they all had black tattoos on their faces. They were the beings of the Sevenpass race, the #1 branch among the flying spirit race. The thin female child flying at the forefront of the group was none other than Ao Qing, whom all of the holy disciples were wary of. Ao Qing looked on at the fleeing black shadow up ahead with a cold smile on her face and pursued it in an unhurried manner. After a while, a burly man among the Sevenpass race holy disciples couldn't help but suggest, "Senior Marshal Sister Ao, the direction that this golden tusk beast is escaping is diverging, away from the entrance to the second level that we're heading toward. Wouldn't it be best to kill it now, rather than continue to follow it? Where's the hurry? It's very rare to encounter pack-dwelling mid-grade demon beasts like the Golden Tusk Beast on just the first level of the Earth Abyss, so we naturally have to kill all of them at once. Are you doubting my ability to complete the trial just because we have to slightly delay our descent into the next level?" Ao Qing asked in an emotionless voice. The burly man was given a fright upon hearing this, and he hurriedly explained, "Of course not. I wouldn't dare to think such a thing. I'm just afraid that the infernal flame fruits will be taken by the holy disciples from the other branches. If we really do get there too late, then we can just take other people's fruits. If that doesn't work, we can always go to the 4th level of the Earth Abyss. There'll definitely be a vast quantity of those fruits down there." Ao Qing chuckled coldly in an implacable manner. The burly man didn't dare to say anything else upon hearing that. Thus, they continued to pursue the fleeing black shadow in an unhurried manner, like a pride of lions toying with their prey. Amid a vast expanse of rugged rocks, 3 flying spirit race beings with blue-feathered wings on their backs and scales all over their faces had surrounded a demon beast of darkness and had launched a ferocious assault against it. This demonic creature had the head of a deer and the body of a human, and it was around 20 feet tall. Black chi was swirling around its body, and it held a massive black trident in its hands, managing to hold its own even in the face of several holy disciples. Furthermore, it seemed to only be growing more powerful as the battle wore on, and it was instead the 3 holy disciples who were slowly being forced onto the back foot. This was only the first level of the Earth Abyss, so they had no idea how a high-grade demon beast like the deer-faced demon had ended up here. However, seeing as this carnivorous demon beast was trying to prey on them, they had no choice but to fight for their lives. Elsewhere, most of the flying spirit race holy disciples on the first level had encountered unexpected troubles. However, there were also some holy disciples who had enjoyed remarkably smooth journeys and were entering the second level as the Qirong beings had. Meanwhile, in order to avoid the antagonistic flying spirit race branches, Hanli had no choice but to head toward the most secluded entrance, and the flying carriage had flown for over half a day with the trio inside it. Perhaps it was because this carriage's concealment restriction really was working, or because there weren't many demon beasts on this route to begin with. In any case, they encountered no further complications during the rest of their journey, and after flying for 2 days and 2 nights, they had passed through 2 forests and a set of mountain ranges, arriving in a place deep within the first level of the Earth Abyss. At this rate, it would only take them another day to arrive at the entrance to the second level. Lei Lan and Bai Bi were quite elated by their progress. However, after flying for several tens of thousands of kilometers further, a vast expanse of black mountain ranges suddenly appeared up ahead. The 3 of them immediately stopped the carriage in alarm. According to the map, there should be a set of plains here. Why are there mountain ranges instead? Bai Bi murmured as he looked at the massive mountains up ahead. Lei Lan was also rather dumbstruck. Even from a distance, they could tell that all of the mountains in the mountain ranges were extremely tall. Some of them had extended to the very top of the underground world, leaving only small gaps between mountains through which one could pass, and that presented quite a daunting prospect. No only knew just how long these mountain ranges extended for, nor whether there were any hazards awaiting them inside. Han Li's eyes narrowed as suddenly exited the flying carriage, then descended onto the nearby ground to carefully inspect something. Lei Lan and Bai Bi were rather surprised by what Han Li was doing, but after exchanging a quick glance, they also flew out of the carriage and landed beside Han Li. From the signs nearby, it appears that this set of mountain ranges has only appeared here in the past century. It was most likely moved here by someone with unfathomable power, Han Li said in a slow voice. Lei Lan's face paled upon hearing this, and Bai Bi's expression was also rather disgruntled. There's no need to panic. Even the demon monarchs in the deepest level of the Earth Abyss aren't capable of such a monumental feat through their own power. This was most likely done through the assistance of some kind of treasure or formation. The only alternative possibility is that a true spirit-level demon beast has appeared in the deepest level of the abyss. Han Li said with a smile, I see. As a holy disciple of the Tianpeng race, Bai Bi was no ordinary being, and he quickly realized that Han Li was right. Even so, the situation here isn't quite right. The desert that we passed through earlier also appeared out of nowhere. Why are the demon beasts of the Earth Abyss doing this? What could their intentions be? A concerned look appeared on Lei Lan's face. Perhaps this is all due to the beast torrent. Even if that isn't the case, and there's another reason behind all this, there's no way that the Earth Abyss trial would be cancelled. Hence, all we can do is get to the 3rd level, then bring back the infernal flame fruit as quickly as possible, and report these sightings to the higher-ups in our Tianpeng race, Han Li said in an unflustered manner. After all, he had many similar past experiences, so this was not something new to him. You're right, Brother Han. However, this set of mountain ranges really is quite peculiar. If we fly through the gaps between the mountains, who knows what dangers we could encounter? But if we try to go around it, Bai Bi said in a hesitant voice, we definitely can't go around it. Lei Lan rejected before analyzing, according to the map. On one side of this land is the Earth Abyss wind belt, while the black abyssal flying ants' nests lay on the other side. The Earth Abyss winds in the wind belt are far more powerful than the gusts we've encountered before, and the glacial power imbued within them can freeze us instantly. It's a renowned restricted area. As for the ants' nests, there are hundreds of thousands of flying ants in there. If we try to force our way through it with our cultivation bases, there's at least a 50% chance that we'd all die in there. So that means our only choice is to pass through these mountain ranges, Han Li murmured to himself as he stroked his chin. Not necessarily. If we go around in an even larger circle, we can skirt around all of these hazards. But that'll take at least an extra 7 or 8 days. That delay could prove to be extremely detrimental to our search for the infernal flame fruit. Lei Lan was becoming rather hesitant. Meanwhile, Han Li was staring at the mountain ranges up ahead in silence. At this moment, both Bai Bi and Lei Lan also fell silent, entrusting the final decision to Han Li. After a while, Han Li finally made his decision. These mountain ranges give me a very eerie feeling. If we really do go through it, I feel like we'll encounter some extreme hazards. Even if we can force our way through the mountain ranges, we'll most likely have expended a large amount of magic power. and that certainly won't hold us in good stead for the rest of the trial. As for entering the second level a few days late, I don't think that's too much of an issue. With these few days of delay, the branches that are targeting us won't be able to predict our route and ambush us. Besides, there are so many trial takers, and there won't be all that many infernal flame fruits to be found on the second level. I intend to take you two to the third level anyway, so it's better to waste some time rather than face the unknown dangers within those mountain ranges. He then flew back into the flying carriage. Leylan and Bai Bi held a brief discussion through voice, transmission upon seeing this before also returning to the carriage. Brother Han, I think we should discuss this matter in further depth. Perhaps the mountain ranges aren't as dangerous as we imagine, Bai Bi said as soon as he entered the carriage. Even though he felt like Han Li's decision made sense, he still couldn't help but feel that wasting so much time was not wise. Speak no further. I won't enter these mountain ranges, Han said in an indifferent voice, cutting off what Bai Bi was about to say next. The carriage then shot forth toward another direction at his behest. Seeing as Han Li was so determined, Bai Bi heaved a resigned sigh and fell silent. Leylan didn't contribute anything further to the conversation either. Unbeknownst to two of them, Han Li was not feeling anywhere near as resolute and assured as he appeared. At this moment, a wisp of his spiritual sense was connected to the weeping soul beast inside his spirit beast bracelet, trying to soothe the beast's violent and uneasy emotions. At the same time, he was wondering what could the cause of its emotional outburst. Just as he was approaching those mountain ranges earlier, the weeping soul bead within his body suddenly began to heat up. His heart jolted with shock in response, and he hurriedly established a connection with the weeping soul beast in his spirit beast bracelet. As a result, he discovered that the beast was in an extremely abnormal, ruffled state, growling incessantly while rushing around in an erratic manner. Chapter 1. 1446 Green Shadow. The weeping soul beast had already attained intelligence, and after communicating with it, Han Li learned that there was a burst of fearsome yin soul energy lurking deep within those mountain ranges. It seemed that there was a ghostly being in there that was so powerful. Even the weeping soul beast felt threatened by its existence. The weeping soul beast was the natural bane of ghostly souls. So a ghostly being with yin soul energy powerful enough to threaten it naturally had to be an extremely fearsome being. That wasn't to say that the weeping soul beast stood no chance against it, but Han Li simply wasn't willing to take the risk. Thus, he immediately decided against entering the mountain ranges, choosing instead to take a further route, even if it meant spending more time on their journey. This concerned the secret that was his weeping soul beast. So Han Li naturally didn't explain everything in detail to Leylan and Bai Bi. He merely used some rather unconvincing excuses to placate them. As such, the two Tianpeng race holy disciples were a little displeased. Han Li merely chuckled coldly in his heart and paid no heed to the two holy disciples. It wasn't as if he planned to stay at the Tianpeng race for a long time anyway, so he didn't have to care what these two thought about him. Everything would be fine as long as they didn't weigh him down in this trial. With that in mind, Han Li provided no further explanations to Bai Bi and Leylan, and the two holy disciples weren't interested in speaking any further about the issue either. Thus, the interior of the carriage became very quiet. Among the three of them, Han Li stood at the front of the carriage and looked out into the distance. Bai Bi had his head lowered in deep thought, and Leylan had her eyes closed as she entered a seated meditative state. Han Li spurred on the carriage to full speed, and it departed from the mountain ranges in moments, flying into the barren landscape again. After a while, Han Li's expression suddenly changed slightly as he withdrew his gaze, then turned his attention to the direction behind the carriage with narrowed eyes. Han Li's actions naturally attracted the attention of Leylan and Bai Bi. The two raised their heads in unison, and Leylan opened her eyes to assess the situation. They cast their gaze toward the direction that Han Li was looking in, only to discover a vast expanse, murky grayness everywhere they looked, due to the restrictions on everyone's spiritual sense present within the Earth Abyss. Neither of them were able to release their spiritual sense to survey the situation, so they could only turn to Han Li with curiosity in their eyes. Han Li stood expressionlessly at the front of the carriage without saying anything, but there was blue light faintly shimmering within his eyes. "Brother Han." Bai Bi was finally unable to repress his curiosity any longer, but in the instant that he opened his mouth to raise a question, Hanli suddenly swept two fingers gently through the air. A streak of golden light shot forth like lightning, and the scenes that unfolded next gave Bai Bi and Lei Lan a massive fright. As the golden light flashed through the air, green chi suddenly flashed, and a cloud of green mist appeared out of thin air, only to be sliced in half by the golden light. A roar of shock and fury rang out from within the mist as the two halves of the green mist combined as one again. The green mist then surged and transformed into a strange demonic ape with yellow fur all over its body. It was none other than the resentful ape beast that had just slain a flying spirit race holy disciple earlier. It had finally caught up to the flying carriage not long ago, and in its elation, it had attempted to sneak over to the carriage, then enshroud it with poisonous mist to kill Han Li's trio. However, never would it have thought that not only was Han Li's spiritual sense far superior to that of normal deity transformation cultivators, his bright sight spirit eyes were also capable of easily seeing through illusions and concealment techniques, thereby allowing him to immediately glean the demonic ape's presence. Lei Lan and Bai Bi's hearts jolted with shock at the sight of the demonic ape, and they immediately sprang to their feet before flying out to either side of the carriage. Even though they were unable to release their spiritual sense, it was still a testament to this demonic ape's concealment and illusionary abilities that it was able to get so close to them without their detection. However, that begged the question of how Han Li had managed to discover them, given that he was also a spirit general. The two of them fixed their eyes on the demonic ape with wary expressions on their faces and befuddlement in their hearts. At this moment, the flying carriage slowly came to a halt at Han Li's behest, and he appraised the demonic ape in an expressionless manner. "Are you three the ones who ruined my mistress's sacrificial ceremony?" the resentful ape beast asked in a cold voice. Bai Bi's heart stirred upon hearing this, but he put on a smile as he asked, "Sacrificial ceremony? What sacrificial ceremony? When did we ever do such a thing? Did you destroy a giant spirit flower back in the desert? That flower was being used as part of my mistress's sacrificial ceremony." The demonic ape continued in a menacing voice. "No," Han Li immediately replied without even batting a single eyelid. The calm and concise tone in his voice made even the demonic ape falter, and for a split second, it wondered whether it had pursued the wrong targets. However, it then turned its attention to Lei Lan and Bai Bi, and their facial expressions clearly betrayed Han Li's denial. As such, the demonic ape flew into a thunderous rage. "You have the essence of the giant spirit flower all over your bodies, yet you still dare to try and fool me. I'm going to eat all of you, so I can report back to my mistress." The demonic ape roared as it transformed into a cloud of green mist that stretched for over 100 feet, hurtling directly toward the trio. "Insolent beast!" Bai Bi's smile faded as he flapped his wings toward the mist in one powerful motion. Countless strands of golden threads shot forth, instantly puncturing the mist and filling it with holes. However, green light swirled around the mist, and it made a full recovery in the blink of an eye. On the other end, Lei Lan could sense that this opponent was quite troublesome to deal with, and she immediately made a hand seal. Two thick bolts of silver lightning shot forth from within her sleeves, striking the green mist before exploding with a resounding boom. After the two bolts of lightning disappeared, the green mist faltered in mid-air, and two gaping holes that were each around 10 feet in size had appeared. However, before Lei Lan had a chance to celebrate, the deriding cackling of the demonic ape rang out from within the mist. The green mist managed to quickly regenerate once again before swelling in size and closing in with ferocious might. Bai Bi and Lei Lan's expressions both changed in unison. They had sensed that this demonic ape was a being to be wary of, but they didn't think that a mere resentful ape beast would pose such a stern challenge. The two of them immediately sprung into action again. One of them flipped a hand over to produce a green wooden comb, while the other made a hand seal, and arcs of lightning began to crackle in the air in preparation for another attack. However, Han Li merely harumphed coldly at this moment and finally joined the fray. Azure light shimmered behind him as a massive azure bird projection appeared, then opened its huge beak. An azure pillar of light shot forth from within its beak amid a dull thump, puncturing the center of the green mist in a flash. The pillar of light then split up into countless azure threads before exploding in all directions. Gale-force winds were swept up as a violent hurricane wreaked havoc through the mist. All of the green mist was swept up by the gusts of wind before vanishing on the spot. It was as if the green mist had been blown into oblivion by the wind. Leylan and Bai Bi both faltered upon seeing this. Could it be that this demon beast they'd found so troublesome to deal with had been destroyed by Han Li with a single attack? However, Han Li showed no signs of stopping. A peculiar look appeared on his face as he abruptly summoned 8 streaks of golden sword chi, which struck 8 different spots in the air behind him. 8 unsettling cries erupted in unison, following which 8 clouds of green mist emerged out of thin air, having just barely evaded the streaks of sword chi. 8 indistinct green projections of light that were even shorter than the demonic ape from before appeared in mid-air, and one of them exclaimed, "You really are capable of detecting our presence." Han Li's body blurred, and in the next instant he had turned around to face the green projections as he asked, "It shouldn't be any surprise that I'm able to see through such crude concealment techniques. What kind of demon beast are you? You're not resentful ape beasts, right? There's no way that resentful ape beasts could possess these abilities." Only then did Leylan and Bai Bi realize that there were enemies behind them, and they hurriedly turned around with shock and bewilderment in their hearts. It was quite plain to see that these two possessed powerful cultivation bases and abilities, but they were sorely lacking in practical combat experience. It was no wonder that the Tianpeng race elders weren't optimistic about their chances of completing the trial on their own. Hey, don't even think about trying to goad me into telling you my origins. I may not be able to do anything to you on the surface, but here in this earth abyss, even if your cultivation base far outstrips mine, you're definitely no match for me. Another one of the green projections had spoken on this occasion, and 8 projections threw their heads back and burst into raucous laughter in unison. Immediately thereafter, green light flashed and 8 completely identical demonic apes were manifested. Green light flashed from these apes' hands, and all of them summoned green machetes as they rushed toward Han Li's trio. Han Li raised an eyebrow as he abruptly raised a hand. The hand turned into a pristine white color, and he spread open his fingers to blast forth a swath of 5 colored flames. The flames sped forth at a phenomenal pace, sweeping up the 8 demonic apes in the blink of an eye. Brilliant 5-colored spiritual light then erupted from the flames, and the 8 demonic apes were slowed down to less than 1/10 of their original speed. Han Li took this opportunity to expel a ball of shimmering silver flames out of his mouth. The silver flames exploded at his behest, splitting up into 8 silver flaming arrows that shot forth in a flash. The 8 silver arrows then punctured the bodies of the restricted demonic apes in an instant. These demonic apes were indeed quite powerful in the earth abyss, but never would they have thought that he would possess such a strange ability capable of slowing them down so significantly. Thus, they were completely caught off guard, and even though all of the demonic apes could see the oncoming flaming arrows, they were simply far too slow to evade. They only had time to let loose a collective roar of shock and fury before fist-sized holes were punched into their chest, following which silver flames erupted to engulf their bodies. All of the demonic apes were reduced to plumes of smoke by these silver flames in the blink of an eye. They hadn't even managed the vast majority of their abilities before they killed, and not even a single wisp of their souls had managed to escape. The silver flames converged to form a fire raven that re-entered Han Li's body, and by that point, Leylan and Bai Bi were already completely flabbergasted. Even though they had only had a brief clash with the demonic apes, they could tell that these demon beasts were fearsome creatures, and that a prolonged and arduous battle would be required to kill them. However, Han Li had slain these demonic apes in mere moments, and the stark contrast between expectations and reality had them in complete shock. Only then did they truly understand the gulf between Han Li and themselves, and their expressions were rather strained as they looked at him. "Let's go. That ape mentioned a mistress earlier, and she most likely won't be as easy to deal with," Han Li said in an indifferent voice before stepping onto the flying carriage again. Chapter 1. 1447. Crisis. Leylan and Bai Bi's expressions changed in unison upon hearing this, and they also hurriedly sprang back into the carriage. Almost at the exact same moment, a faint cry of surprise suddenly rang out on the 3rd level of the earth abyss. In a place that was pitch black and completely devoid of light, a fair and slender arm reached out of the darkness while holding a yellow wooden badge in the shape of a ghostly head. What happened? The 8-faced beast's soul flame suddenly snuffed out. "Humph. That useless oaf can't even do something so simple." Looks the ones who destroyed my giant spirit flower have some tricks up their sleeves. So be it. I'll take care of these trivial matters later. As long as these people haven't left the Earth Abyss, I'll be able to find them no matter what. The woman harumphed coldly in a confident manner before everything fell silent again. 2 days later, on the first level of the Earth Abyss, a faint white shadow passed over a set of black grasslands. All of a sudden, a dozen or so black shadows sprang forth from the tall grass down below, pouncing straight toward the indistinct white shadow. These were a dozen or so massive praying mantises with green eyes and sinister facial features. They were each around 3 feet tall and pitch black in color. Bursts of rumbling erupted from within the carriage, following which a dozen or so arcs of silver lightning flashed forth from within the white shadow, striking these praying mantises with unerring accuracy. The praying mantises didn't even get a chance to utter a single sound before they were reduced to dust and blown away by the wind. 4 days later, a spirit carriage flew through the air in a careless manner, flying over a vast expanse of rugged rocks. There were several rock demons with bodies constructed from loose rocks down below, galloping as quickly as they could in pursuit of the carriage. Countless golden threads suddenly shot forth from within the carriage, instantly puncturing the bodies of their rock demons before constricting in a violent manner. Brilliant golden light flashed and all of these rock demons perished crumbling to the ground as loose rocks. 7 days later, Hanli's trio stood in the air above a massive valley within which greyish-white mist was surging incessantly, and all 3 of them were carefully inspecting this valley. Lei Lan and Bai Bi's eyes were filled with elation, and the flying carriage that had carried them to this point was nowhere to be seen. Perhaps it had been destroyed by demon beasts on the way here, or had been stowed away by Han Li. In any case, it was gone now. Looks like this place is relatively safe. Let's go in. If we descend underground here for a day, we'll be able to reach the 2nd level. This place is so secluded, so the exit on the other side will most likely be quite safe as well. It would be quite unlikely that someone would go to the trouble of setting up traps on the other end. Han Li analyzed before spreading his wings and leading the way into the mist. The 2 Tianpeng race holy disciples had already come so far, so backing down now was naturally not an option. As such, they also entered the mist with solemn expressions on their faces. The grey mist wasn't very dense, so even after entering it, they could still roughly see everything just over 100 feet away from them. However, there would occasionally be a few foot-long winged snakes that would fly out of the mist to try and attack the trio. Of course, they were all slain with ease. 2 hours later, they finally emerged from the mist and arrived at the end of the valley. At this moment, they were greeted by the sight of a massive rift on one of the valley's gigantic stone faces. The rift seemed to be leading extremely deep into the ground. A smile appeared on Han Li's face upon seeing this rift, and he led the 2 holy disciples into it without any hesitation. The 3 streaks of spiritual light flew on and disappeared from view after rounding a few corners. A day and a night later, a strange howling sound suddenly erupted near a massive rift that was leading downward. A gust of fierce black winds erupted from the rift in a frenzy, completely coating the nearby rock face in a layer of ice, clearly indicating that it was extremely frosty. However, 3 streaks of spiritual light took advantage of this opportunity to fly out from the gust of wind, appearing several hundred feet away after a few flashes. The spiritual lights then faded to reveal 3 humanoid figures. They were none other than Han Li's trio. The Earth Abyss winds in this passageway are far too fierce. I was almost unable to withstand them. Why didn't the information we received mention this at all? Bai Bi's face was quite pale as he cast his gaze toward the spot from which the trio had just emerged. The fact that this phenomenon wasn't detailed in the information we received indicates that it's only appeared in recent years. Otherwise, the senior of our race would have definitely mentioned this to us. Lei Lan also appeared to have expended a lot of energy in flying through the Earth Abyss winds, and she couldn't help but glance at Han Li. At this moment, Han Li had his arms crossed and was surveying his surroundings. He was completely unruffled, and it was as if he'd just taken a stroll in the park rather than forcing his way through lethal Earth Abyss winds. Could it be that there's such a massive gulf between early spirit generals and late spirit generals? Lei Lan thought to herself in a resigned manner. It was all thanks to Han Li's assistance that she was able to survive that ordeal at all. Otherwise, she may well have perished to those fearsome winds. We've already been delayed too much on the first level, so there's no point in wasting time searching for infernal flame fruits on the second level. Let's head straight to the third level, Han Li said in an implacable voice as he withdrew his gaze. The air here was rather humid. It appeared that they were situated in the air above a swamp-like area. The two Tianpeng race holy disciples were now well aware that Han Li was far more powerful than them, so they naturally didn't harbor any more discontent toward him. However, Lei Lan still couldn't help but express her concern after a brief hesitation. I naturally have no objections there, but there are only 3 entrances from the second level to the third level. So no matter which one we take, there's a good chance that we'll encounter people from other branches. If we encounter the holy disciples from branches that bear ill will toward our Tianpeng race. Lei Lan didn't finish her sentence, but the implications in her words were quite apparent. It's not just a good chance. Those branches would have definitely deployed people to those 3 entrances. We're most likely not their sole targets either. The people from the weakest few branches will most likely all be targeted by them. Bai Bi sighed. Hey, if we encounter them, then we'll just have to fight. We'll have to overcome this obstacle sooner or later. However, even if a powerful branch like the Qi Rong race wanted to plot against our Tianpeng race, there's no way that they'll station all of their holy disciples at the 3 entrances. The Earth Abyss trial takes place once every 300 years, so it's just as important to them as it is to us. As such, they could only have stationed a half or even less of their members at the 3 entrances. In that case, it may not be easy to defeat them, but forcing our way through their barricade certainly won't be impossible. Han Li analyzed with a cold chuckle. If that really is the case, then we've got some chances after all. Bai Bi and Lei Lan were reinvigorated by Han Li's encouraging words. No one can guarantee exactly what the situation will be like. We can only work things out as we go, Han Li replied in a calm voice. Which entrance are we going to choose? 2 of them are relatively safer to get to, while the other one is rather dangerous, Lei Lan asked with furrowed brows. Seeing as we could encounter obstacles from the other branches, regardless of which entrance we choose, then it's naturally best to choose the one closest to our current location. Han Li decided without any hesitation. In that case, we'll have to go to the Myriad Vine Path, Bai Bi said after a brief pause. Han Li seemed to have some recollection of this name, and his eyes flashed as he inquired for confirmation. The Myriad Vine Path. Is that the entrance from the second to the third level connected by many ancient vines? That's the one. Aside from some demonic insects that may appear along that path, there are virtually no hazards to be encountered. If we have a smooth journey, we should be able to get there in half a month. Bai Bi confirmed. That sounds good. Let's go to that entrance then, Han Li said. Lei Lan and Bai Bi had no objections to this, and both of them nodded in agreement. Han Li flipped his hand over to produce a blue formation plate, which he shook in front of his eyes, thereby allowing him to confirm the direction they were heading in before leading the 2 holy disciples onward. Not long after the 3 of them had departed, an inky black figure emerged soundlessly from within the thick mud of the swamp. It turned an intense gaze toward the direction that Han Li and the others had sped away in, and a hint of red light flashed through its eyes. The black figure then suddenly exploded like a bubble and disappeared on the spot. All of a sudden, Han Li felt a chill run down his spine as he flew through the air. He immediately paused in his flight and glanced behind him. What is it, Brother Han? At this point, Bai Bi had complete trust in Han Li's abilities and judgment, and he also stopped in a wary manner. Blue light flashed through Han Li's eyes as he scanned his gaze across the ground behind them. Only after a while did he reply, "Nothing. Perhaps it was my imagination." The bone-chilling sensation that he had been struck with had already vanished, and it was as if it had never appeared in the first place. For people like Han Li with excessively sensitive spiritual sense, it was quite often that he would sense peril where none actually existed. However, for something like this to happen in such a dangerous place was rather unsettling to him, and he simply couldn't bring himself to forget it. Having said that, no demonic being would be able to escape the detection of his spirit eyes unless that cultivation base was far superior to his, so perhaps that spine-tingling sensation really had just been a figment of his imagination. After a brief pause, Han Li could only arrive at that conclusion. He waved a hand toward Bai Bi and Lei Lan before continuing onward, but his expression had darkened significantly. Unbeknownst to Han Li, there was a mysterious being whose entire body was enshrouded in a set of vibrant red robes, lying down on a black wooden chair within the belly of a mountain in a deeper level of the earth abyss. There was a stone table beside the chair upon which was placed a large copper mirror. There was a rather blurry image being depicted in the mirror, and the image was none other than that of Han Li's trio flying over the swamp. Interesting to think that he's even able to sense my mud puppet. Looks like his spiritual sense far outstrips his cultivation base. Unfortunately, I'm not really interested in refining yin spirits. The red-robed being chuckled before sweeping a sleeve toward the mirror as if he were going to dispel the image, but its arm suddenly faltered as a contemplative look appeared in his eyes. I almost forgot. That ghost hag seems to be collecting beings with powerful souls, so this man would be a good gift for her. I should be able to exchange him for a bloodfish from her. The red-robed being murmured to himself. He suddenly sat up as a hint of excitement flashed through his eyes, seemingly very pleased with his own lateral thinking abilities. He rustled a sleeve and a translucent bead shot forth before stopping in front of him. He then made a hand seal, and a streak of red light disappeared into the bead in a flash, following which brilliant crimson light began to radiate from the bead.